You are observing something truly unprecedented. As we approach the edge of 2026, empaths around the world are moving through a shared awakening. The childhood narrative that kept them contained, that convinced them staying small meant staying safe, that trained them to serve everyone except themselves, is breaking apart. No matter how strongly they try to cling to it, that outdated timeline cannot move forward with them into what lies ahead. Carl Jung's work speaks directly to this moment. Within his concept of individuation, we encounter what can be described as a profound separation. The stage where the empath's survival strategy shifts from a form of protection into a psychological confinement. It is the point at which remaining unchanged becomes more painful than the fear associated with transformation. If you are an empath, you can already sense this unfolding internally, the restlessness, the fatigue, the clear realization that something essential is changing. Your nervous system is reorganizing itself. Your awareness is stretching beyond limits that once felt familiar. And the identity you have carried for your entire life is gradually coming to an end. So why 2026? What distinguishes this threshold from any other year? Because 2026 signifies far more than a point on a calendar. It represents the completion of a developmental phase. The conclusion of an energetic agreement formed before you even had language. It marks the expiration of the story assigned to you in childhood, the story that taught you your worth depended solely on what you could provide for others. Let me explain exactly what that story was and why it is dissolving now. Ready or not, you were never meant to be the caretaker of other people's emotional worlds. Yet early in life, you were given a very different message. Your family system was overwhelmed. Perhaps it involved addiction. Perhaps it was violence. Perhaps it was the quiet pressure of unexpressed pain. Regardless of the specific dysfunction, the system required someone to absorb the impact, someone to carry what others could not manage, someone to convert disorder into stability. That sensitive person was you, not by choice, but because your nervous system was designed for awareness. You could sense the atmosphere before you could read words. You anticipated danger before it arrived. You felt the emotions of others as if they were your own. Initially, this was not a gift, it was a survival mechanism. By sensing emotional currents, you could predict storms. By managing the pain of others, perhaps you could protect yourself. So, you became the fixer, the peacemaker, the one who apologized for existing. You carried burdens that were not yours. You suppressed your own needs so completely that you forgot they existed. Your sense of self-worth depended entirely on your usefulness to others. Joseph would say you surrendered your psychological center. You traded your true self for the role of emotional buffer. For years, perhaps decades, this strategy worked. It kept you connected, gave you purpose, and made you feel needed. But now you are realizing something important. That childhood strategy has an expiration date, and we've reached it. The world is louder, more chaotic, and more demanding. Emotional noise is escalating. The coping mechanisms that protected you as a child are beginning to fail. Absorbing, appeasing, and shrinking no longer work, not because you are failing, but because the strategy has reached its natural limit. This is not a weakness. It is your system signaling that the person you had to become to survive childhood is not equipped for what comes next. Joseph's concept of the shadow explains this phenomenon. The mask you've worn so perfectly no longer fits the person you are becoming. Your shadow is not the darkness you fear. It is every part of yourself you rejected to play the nice helper. Your anger, your boundaries, your self-interest, your right to occupy space, your permission to disappoint others, your ability to say no without justification. All the traits labeled as bad or dangerous in childhood are now emerging, and they will not be silenced. Notice what has been happening recently: the sudden waves of anger, the inability to tolerate behaviors you once accepted, the new inner voice saying no when you've always said yes. This is not bitterness or hardness. This is your authentic self breaking through conditioning. This is the shadow integration Joseph described as essential for psychological wholeness. Modern neuroscience confirms what Joseph intuited decades ago. Your brain is literally rewiring itself. The neural pathways that kept you trapped in unconscious absorption are weakening, allowing your true self to emerge. New pathways are emerging, pathways of conscious observation. You are transitioning from a state where you automatically absorb everyone's emotions to a state where you can observe them without internalizing them. This isn't about becoming cold or detached. It's about developing the ability to see everything clearly while taking in nothing. Research on neuroplasticity indicates that empaths who experience this transformation show heightened activity in the prefrontal cortex, which governs conscious decision-making, along with reduced reactivity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center. Your mind is upgrading from survival mode to sovereignty mode, from reactive to responsive, from victim to creator. Yet this shift can feel frightening because it seems like a form of betrayal. It can feel as though you're becoming the very thing you were conditioned to fear. Empaths aren't broken. They are alchemists in progress. The alchemist's path provides practical exercises, boundary building techniques, and 3 exclusive chapter videos to help transform overwhelm into clarity, offered by Surreal Mind. A 236-page downloadable ebook is available now at surrealmind.com. People around you may label you as selfish, distant, or cold. They may claim you've changed, that you are being difficult or harsh. A part of you may want to believe them and retreat into the safety of familiar old patterns. But what they are really saying is that you are no longer predictable, controllable, or willing to sacrifice yourself for their comfort. This unsettles them not because you are dangerous, but because your growth reflects their own stagnation. Your evolution exposes their refusal to grow. Your boundaries challenge their sense of entitlement. Your sovereignty confronts their dependence. But 2026 will not allow retreat. It is more than a year. It is a vibrational threshold, a frequency your old self cannot match. The old story of your childhood resonates at the frequency of fear, obligation, and guilt. Your future self operates at the frequency of sovereignty, clarity, and conscious choice. These frequencies cannot coexist. One must give way for the other to thrive. Think of it this way: you cannot hold water in a leaky container. The old you, the people pleaser, the fixer, the emotional sponge, is full of holes worn by years of self-abandonment and lack of boundaries. Holes carved by the belief that your worth depended on how useful you were. That container can no longer hold the power trying to flow into you now. It must be completely broken. A new container must be built, one without holes, with walls firm but flexible, capable of holding your energy instead of letting it leak out to everyone around you. This is the awakening, the great separation, the moment when an empath must decide between the familiar pain of self-abandonment and the frightening unknown of self-possession. You are standing at the edge of what Jung described as a necessary psychological death, a severing, the death that comes before rebirth. Every spiritual tradition both warns of and celebrates this moment, the dark night of the soul, crossing the threshold. The point of no return. Here's what this severing looks like. You will have a moment, perhaps you have already had it, when the entire pattern comes into sharp focus. You will see how you've been used, how you allowed yourself to be used, and how those you served have become dependent on yourself. Sacrifice. You will see how your kindness enabled their dysfunction, and how your empathy was turned against you. This insight will be painful, not because others are evil, but because you will realize you taught them how to treat you. You trained them to take without giving, to demand without returning, to lean without supporting, and the role you played in your own diminishment will be undeniable. You will recall all the times you said yes when you meant no, absorbed someone's anger to keep peace, made yourself smaller so others could feel bigger, apologized for having needs, and carried burdens that weren't yours to bear. The weight of all these moments may feel crushing. The temptation will be to fall into anger or victimhood, to blame those who exploited your sensitivity. But the severing calls for something harder than blame. It calls for radical responsibility. You must face the truth Jung spent his life helping people see. You chose this not consciously or maliciously, but you chose it nonetheless. You became the martyr because it felt safer than being sovereign. Why safer? Because being the helper made you needed. Being needed felt like being loved, and even that distorted, conditional love felt safer than risking rejection. So you made a pact with yourself. You gave everything, you were everything, you carried the weight of everyone else. And in return, people kept you close, they depended on you, and in doing so, you avoided the fear of being abandoned. But that agreement has ended because you're beginning to realize that being needed is not the same as being valued. Being useful is not equivalent to being loved. A connection built on yourself, sacrifice isn't truly a connection at all. It's a transaction. And you are exhausted from being treated as currency in someone else's life. Now you must choose differently. You must take the step that feels like the ultimate betrayal. You must disappoint others to protect yourself. Let them be angry. Let them be confused. Let them accuse you of changing. Let them say you are not who they thought you were, because they are right. You are no longer that person. That version of you is fading, and you cannot revive it. No matter how much guilt arises from letting go, this is the fear of separation. It feels like you are killing the only version of yourself that was ever loved. But here is the truth. That version was never truly loved. It was needed, and need is not love. Need is dependence, and dependence is a cage. True love doesn't require self-abandonment. True love doesn't punish you for setting boundaries. True love doesn't make you feel guilty for evolving. True love celebrates growth, even when it makes the relationship uncomfortable. True love adapts. True love evolves. True love doesn't demand that you stay small for someone else's comfort. On the other side of this separation, the integrated empath emerges. This isn't a new you. It's the original you, the self that existed before the childhood story taught you to hide. The integrated empath still sees everything, still recognizes patterns, still feels deeply, but the compulsion to fix, to save, to absorb others' emotions is gone. You become a master of your gift rather than a victim of it. You can enter a room and sense the emotional climate. You can read people with remarkable accuracy. You can detect what is hidden, repressed, or about to erupt. But you no longer take it on, you observe it, you acknowledge it, and then you consciously decide whether to engage. Imagine this in practice. Someone brings their crisis to you. The old you would have dropped everything, absorbed their panic, made their emergency yours, sacrificed your peace to restore theirs. The integrated you acts differently. You listen. You acknowledge their pain. You offer presence without promises. Then you ask yourself a question that would have seemed impossible before. Is this my responsibility to carry? If the answer is no, you release it. You allow them to feel their emotions. You let them face their challenges. You let them take responsibility for their own life. Meanwhile, you stay grounded in yours. This is what Jung referred to as conscious participation. You are no longer unconsciously merged with those around you. You maintain boundaries without building walls. You practice empathy without self-sacrifice. You show compassion without destroying yourself. You can fully be present with someone's pain without taking on the burden of fixing it. Those meant to be in your life will understand this growth. They will feel safer, not less safe, with you. You are no longer performing empathy out of fear of rejection. Instead, you are expressing genuine care from a place of wholeness. Those who cannot accept this version of you will leave, and you must let them. They were never truly connected to you, only to what you could provide for them. Observe what happens when you stop overfunctioning. Those who genuinely care will adapt. They will honor your boundaries. They will value your honesty. They will meet you in the new space you are creating. However, those who are taking advantage will react with anger, guilt, and manipulation. They will attempt every tactic they've ever used to pull you back into the old pattern. This reveals clearly who was authentic and who was exploiting you. 2026 calls you to become the architect of your own path. To stop waiting for permission, stop apologizing for growth, and stop shrinking so others can remain comfortable in their unconscious patterns. Your childhood story cannot accompany you into this new frequency because it was built on self-abandonment. And self-abandonment is no longer an option. You are not leaving people behind. You are leaving a version of yourself behind. The version that believed love must hurt, that connection required sacrifice, that being good meant disappearing. That version served its purpose. It kept you alive when you were small and powerless, but you are no longer small. You are no longer powerless. The power you are stepping into is not about control or domination. It is the power to choose yourself without guilt. Every person who has walked the path of true individuation has encountered this moment. The moment arrives when the old self must fade, and the new self feels unfamiliar, even untrustworthy. Joseph faced this himself. He called it his confrontation with the unconscious, a profound psychological crisis that pushed him to his limits. Yet he emerged transformed, not by becoming someone else, but by finally becoming fully himself. During that time, Joseph experienced visions, voices, and psychological phenomena that could have overwhelmed anyone without a deep understanding of the psyche. He felt torn apart by forces beyond his conscious control, questioned his sanity, and wondered if he would survive. Still, he persevered. He documented everything, engaged with the rising unconscious material, and what he discovered laid the groundwork for modern understanding of psychological transformation. This is your confrontation, your transformation, your becoming, and it is happening whether you resist or surrender. The question is whether you will fight the process and make it more painful than necessary, or trust that what is ending needed to end. If you are leaving the old story behind, if you feel this change in your bones, if these words resonate with you, know you are exactly where you need to be. You are not broken. You are not failing. You are not losing yourself. You are discovering yourself for the first time. Choosing yourself is a sacred act. The world needs integrated empaths, not martyrs, fixers, or people pleasers who have lost themselves in service to others. It needs those who can feel fully, see clearly, and remain centered, people who can hold space without being consumed by it, offer genuine care without sacrificing their well-being. This is who you are becoming. As daunting as it is, this journey is your most vital work. You are rising. Your childhood story is falling away. The threshold is here, and the choice is yours. Will you cross it? Will you let the old version die? Will you step into the sovereign, integrated, powerful self that has been waiting your entire life to emerge? If you are ready and feel this shift, comment below, "I am rising." Let your declaration be witnessed. If this message resonates, share it with another empath who needs it, like this video. Subscribe for more content that nurtures the soul and supports your evolution. This is not the end of your empathy. It is the beginning of your power. The world has been waiting for you to remember who you truly are. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your courage to evolve. Thank you for choosing yourself. In the alchemist's path, perception training for empaths, you'll transform overwhelm into wisdom with practical exercises. Inspired by Joseph, this guide teaches boundaries and step-by-step perception training. It includes 3 exclusive chapter videos to deepen each lesson. Written by Surreal Mind, 236 pages, beautifully designed 8. 5x11 downloadable ebook, available now. Start your training today. Feel deeply while thinking clearly.